friends. Hi out there. We think you can see us. It's always that magical time between when things
It's
begin
the beginning of the
on
countdown, and
right. So we think you can see us. And we see we have a bunch of questions already, which is exciting. We will get to all of them. Thank you guys all so much for being here. It's wonderful. The thing should begin any second now. There it is. Hello, everybody. Hi. Whoops.
heyo.
Hi, friends. David N says, woohoo, hurrah, hoopla, we're off. Yay, so it works.
Oh,
Technology.
phew.
Finally, I figured this out. We're probably seeing an ad. There we are. Good to see you guys. Happy Wednesday. Thank you for taking time out of your lunch or whatever time it is in the world where you live. Let me know if you can hear me, if my levels are okay. I know there's always a difference between our live levels and what we do in normal times.
Mm.
Hi, Marty. Hi, Chris. Hi, Juju. Hi, Gage. Hi, Angel. Hi, Bonzo. Good to see you. Hello, Looney's here. Gage, all our friends. Lewis Cook, all our friends are here. Lacusto, a frequent commenter around here. Andre, bonjour from the south of France. One of the best parts of doing these, you guys, is going to sound so corny, is I love seeing where you're all from. And I feel so honored that you've taken time out of your day, wherever you are in the world, to come and see us.
Whatever time zone
Hello.
you're in.
Yeah, Timo and Tony and Danny. Clark, hello from Canada. Serbio, hello from Mexico. According to Tony, I'm a little soft. Okay, I'm gonna pot it up. Hey, Brent, good to see you. Hey, Christine, hi. Hello, Tony in the Bay Area. One second, let me pod myself up a teeny bit. Hold on.
Okie doke. I I never have any idea what I'm doing on my end, but she's in charge of the tech.
Little blips. Hello, T Love Hater. Hello, Timothy Adkins. Hello from Chicago. On hell, 9 o'clock at night in Madrid.
Woo! Hola.
You are awesome. Hola in Madrid. Good to see you, Marty in Ontario. Kate in Michigan. Bob E. Inc. Deep South Texas. McAllen, Texas. I used to work
Ay.
for the Associated Press in Dallas, and I knew where all the newspapers were, all in the Rio Grande Valley, RGV. Nisaf says, please bring back Ben. I miss Ben too. Ben's a busy guy. They just had the TCM festival
Yes, yes.
recently. So he was
He's
doing that. Bonjour, Bev. Yay, Bev's in Paris. Bev
ah
just ran the
bonjour.
Paris Marathon like a
Ah,
superstar.
félicitations.
Yes, good job. Hi, Christy and Alonso. Chris is in Clarkdale, Kentucky, Michigan, New York, Nevada, Santiago, Chile,
Wow.
Cincinnati, Ohio. Yes, we can talk more Bo is Afraid, OB, but we're really going to go into detail in a couple of weeks on Bo is
Yes.
Afraid. It opens nationwide this Friday, but I want to give folks a chance to see it. So there you go. Okay, we've got questions. Let's just dive in. All right. And Timothy Atkins says 2 questions. What happens if you fall asleep during a movie you need to review? Christy, will you run away with me? I think my husband might not like that, nor would the child who lives here. Baxter might not care, but
Yeah.
as long as somebody feeds him. What if you fall asleep? It happens.
Yeah,
I'm not going to lie.
I've never reviewed anything I've fallen asleep in, like for more than about like a 10-second, no, if I doze off, I will have to see it again, I think.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes though, as you and I have discussed, there are movies where like it's okay to fall asleep.
Well, that's true. Yeah, the films of Apichatpong Veerasethakun, he welcomes it. He basically says you are interacting with, Memoria or Cemetery of Splendor if you nod off, because those films are operating in a very sort of dreamy space that it just sort of feels natural.
For sure. Hey, Bartlesby Scrivener, thank you so much for your kind generosity.
Thank
Love
you.
you both. Wanted to know how you guys felt about the popularity of fanboy content. Does the rise of fan driven commentary on films diminish the real value of film critics in this franchise dominated era? That's a really good question. Something I
Hmm.
think about as somebody who creates content on YouTube. I feel like people seek out what they want. And if there is a wide variety of different kinds of commentary on film, then we're doing okay. There are sites, of course, which are like specifically, Star Wars driven, Marvel driven, very specific IP. And that's great. And they've got their following and they have a very huge following. And I think there's people who also want stuff like what we do, where we're actually critics. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think, Alonso?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always been some level of, going back to, zines and fan clubs and stuff. There was always sort of a kind of internal chamber of people who were just really kind of focusing on one specific thing. And I mean, yeah, they may be popular and there may be an audience for that, but I don't think that it necessarily cuts into what you and I are doing, what other film critics are doing. It may be that there is an audience that only wants to hear, that echo chamber and doesn't want to hear about have film critics taking more nuanced takes on certain subjects. But I think that's always been the case. And,
Mm.
no critic, I think, is appealing to everybody. So, yeah, if there are some people who are not down for it, that's just the nature of how this all works.
I just hope that there is always a variety,
Of
right?
course,
That
absolutely.
something like YouTube, or wherever you find this kind of stuff. Like, I just hope that it's not only that, right? That we don't give up.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the algorithms sort of tend to send you down the rabbit hole of, well, if you
For
like
sure.
this, then here's more of this and another thing of this and another version of this. But ideally, people have a more extended palette and want to hear different, points of view.
Thank you for the question. Hello, CMR. Thank you for your kind, generous donation.
Thank
Hello
you.
from Dallas. Yeah, hootie.
Woohoo!
As you probably know, Alonzo and I spent a lot of time in Dallas. I can smell the Snuffers cheese fries from here.
I
God, when
do
you're a
miss
freshman,
those.
it's okay to eat those. Loving the new thumbnails. Did you change them to feature your reactions to get boosted in the algorithm? So I've had a lot of thought about this, as Alonzo knows. I'm the one who does the thumbnails, and for a while it was just a picture of the movie with the title, whatever. And I felt kind of squeamish about the mugging thumbnail. I thought it was super corny and cheesy and like not our brand. When people were like, "Ooh," like I just thought it was so not us. And then had a really good talk with Christian Harloff, who is good at this sort of thing and is
Yes.
a good friend of ours and has been very generous with suggestions and support and encouragement. And he's like, you can do a version of your version of you, what's true to you, and still convey a sense of what this video is. Because when people are scrolling and it's a quick process, they may see a great thumbnail for a movie and not know that it's your review or not know that it's you or think it's maybe a trailer. Like
Right.
if they see our faces, they may have seen us before and look at that and go, "Oh, I know them.
What do they
They
have to
prov
say about
they
this?
provide insightful commentary in a world of fan-based channels. Let's see what they have to say about Super Mario Brothers," or whatever it is. So I feel like if it helps us to connect to people and to find more people, yes, the algorithm, then I'm all for it. But I just hope it's never cheesy is my concern.
Yeah. We'll never go full, or anything.
Yeah, yeah. Kate asks, "Have you ever walked out on a movie you're reviewing because it's just so bad?" So, this is a question I think somebody asked at some point during one of our Ask Us Anythings. I have never walked out on a movie that I have to physically write a review for, or that you and I, Alonzo, here are talking about, or I'm talking about on radio. Like I've never left a movie that I have to see in its entirety for actual work,
Yeah, the
but I have
closest
walked out on movies. Yeah.
I've definitely walked out of movies. The closest I've come to of that one, and I copped to it at the time. And I think we have answered this question before. On back on What the Flick, we did that Jimi Hendrix biopic that
Mm,
didn't have any of the Jimi Hendrix music in it that starred Andre 3000, and
mhm.
I turned it off. It was a screener, and I turned it off. And when we reviewed it, I said I turned it off, and I didn't give it a score because I just didn't see the point in continuing with it.
Um, an old friend of mine is a producer on that film.
Sorry, Christie's friend.
No, I know. No, I understand that. Like they tried to get the music from the estate and they couldn't. So then they tried to find a novel way into it. And
That was the least of its
yeah,
problems.
I walked out on Saw, the first Saw. I've never seen a Saw
Mm,
since. It was in New
uh,
York. I had heard, a lot of buzz about it. There was a very different kind of horror movie, and the scene in the first Saw where like the mother and daughter are being held at gunpoint, and it's like a really tight close up on them, just trembling and sobbing. And I wasn't even a mom then. I didn't even realize I wanted to be a mom then, but something about that felt just gross to me. And maybe that's the point, but I was just like, I'm not in the mood for this afternoon. And I left. And I've never seen a Saw since. Am I missing out? I don't
eh,
know.
I walked out of 51st dates because after about 2 dates, I was like, I can't deal with another 48 of these.
Lot more dates. They could
So
all
many
be
more
different.
dates.
Aren't you curious to know? Did they end up at the end?
Wasn't.
I don't
Was not
know.
curious.
I had a good question that I lost. Hold on. It was a question, and if I find it again, I will let you know about our
Well,
chemistry. What is the key to our chemistry, Alonzo?
uh,
From Tony
sodium
wants to know.
nitrate. Mutual respect, I want to say.
That is true. I think that's really true. We do truly love each other. We're very dear friends. That's part
Yes.
of it. And I hope that shines through always. It's a very different thing from like Siskel and Ebert in that there is not the inherent animosity that made
Yeah.
that spark
We're
come
never
to
trying to
life.
one up each other, you know.
No, I'm never going to hide screening information from you. They did that to each other. They would hide one
Really?
another's mail.
Wow. Oh man.
Back when you would get screening information, like, in a physical envelope in the
Mm.
mail, like, they would send you a little
Oh,
postcard
that's
almost kind of
right. I
thing. It was, like,
remember that.
envelope
Yeah.
shaped,
Wow.
and you would have to hand it to them when you walked in. "Gather round, kids. Tell you about a different time before the
Whoo
internet."
boy.
No, I think we have really different life experiences, you and I. I feel
Yeah.
like we complement and complement each other really well. You always bring up a point that I have not thought of. Like, you come at it from a
Oh,
totally different
thanks.
perspective than I do. We do agree a lot, but then I think when we disagree, it's not like, you're stupid." It's like, where did you come up with that? Like, I'm always
What?
curious to
Yeah.
hear, where you come from. Like, I am not a gay male. You are not a mom. And so
Exactly.
we
Well
have
put.
very different perspectives. So there is that. Christine wants to know, have you seen Hunger on Netflix? I've not seen Hunger on
Mm-mm.
Netflix. I'm sorry. Is it good?
I don't know what it is.
I
There's
don't
so many
either.
shows I can't even keep up. It's constantly like you could just start making up titles, and I would just think, "Oh no, I've missed that one too," because people are talking about stuff constantly, and I'm like, if he just recommended some like Japanese show on Netflix, it's about to have season 2, and I was like, I didn't know about season 1. Like,
Yeah.
it's impossible to keep
It
up.
is. Yeah. Clark wants to know, are either of you fans of Mystery Science Theater 3000? If so, what is a recent movie you have seen that is terrible enough to be roasted by the robots of MST3K? Alonzo, this one's for you.
Ooh, good question. Yeah, huge fan. Since I stumbled upon it while changing channels one day and came into the middle of Pod People, and I was just like, "What is this?" And yeah, it very much felt like a show that was made for me. Like everything about it, the what they were referencing, how they were doing it. It just I immediately plugged into it, and I'm still a fan to this day, and I've gotten to know some of the folks involved with it, and that's been a treat. Um, I would love to see them do Babylon.
I mean,
I
from the
think
elephant shitting on people in the
I
very beginning, you've got a lot of material
I
there.
think that movie is trying to wrap its arms around so much and is going so far out in various directions and not usually in a successful way. I would love to hear their take on that.
Yeah. Good question. Thank you. Shannon Sales, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Shannon wants to know, which recent Oscar win do you find the most appalling? Renee Zellweger, Jessica Chastain, Emma Stone, Rami Malek.
Oof.
Well, they're all
Probably
kind
a
of doing the same thing. Not Emma Stone so much, but I think they're all
yeah,
kind of doing the same thing there.
well, Emma Stone's not playing a real person, so we
Yeah.
can give her points to that. And I will defend Renee Zellweger's performance as Judy Garland. I thought
Okay.
she really nailed it. I thought it is a thankless task to try and take on inhabiting somebody who is that well known and that beloved. And I felt like she did a very specific take on a very specific moment in Garland's life. And I thought it worked. I would give a tie to the other two, to Malik and Chastain. I feel like him and the prosthetic teeth, her and the makeup, felt like that was doing all the work. I never really felt like I was buying into the actual lives of these people. And I feel like if anything, Chastain held back. You go back and watch actual footage of Tammy Faye, and she was big and wild and just like exploding in personality. And I feel like Chastain thought, I can't do that, or it's gonna, I don't know how to like gay, gauge that into like something that isn't going to be a cartoon. But the real Tammy Faye did it, and so I think there's a way to do it, and she didn't bother.
And Jessica Chastain was so great as Tammy Wynette
Yes.
in George and Tammy. So I kind of feel like I appreciate the technical precision that she devotes to bringing these larger than life figures to life. For me, I'd say it's Brendan Fraser in The Whale.
Well, that wasn't on the list, but
Right.
yeah.
I guess Rami Malek because it's just so obvious in every way, and a lot of
Mm.
that's the script. Anyway,
Yeah, sure, for sure.
hello, Leo from Manchester. Glad you could make it. Nice to see you. He says, "Congrats, Alonzo, on the new job." Do you want to tell the
Thank
class,
you.
Alonzo, what your new job is?
Yes, I am. There's a website called thefilmverdict.com. They've been around for several years. And basically, it was begun by people who had worked in various trades and had noticed that while, like, particularly Variety and the Hollywood Reporter have kind of been segueing into becoming lifestyle publications and like big glossy magazines about, like hip restaurants in Beverly Hills or whatever, they really wanted to focus on reviews of films out of international festivals because they feel like those reviews really kind of play a big role in the ecosystem because a lot of these small movies from maybe first time filmmakers from, you know, Eastern Europe or Africa or whatever, the reviews and the trades are what get them noticed by sales agents or what get them noticed by festivals in other places, and so they started a site that is almost entirely devoted to reviews. They do some, filmmaker profiles and that kind of thing. And up till now, they have focused on reviews out of festivals, but they decided that they want to have at least some footprint in kind of mainstream American cinema. So they have hired me as their new chief US film critic, and I will be reviewing sort of the widest release every week. As they open in theaters to be part of that conversation as well, which is certainly part of, the global cinema conversation. So I'm going to start next week with my review of Guardians 3, and I'm really excited to be joining up with them.
Woohoo! Glad to hear it. Quick question
Thank you,
from
by the way.
yes, raised on popcorn with Grant. Question for Christy: what was it like working on At the Movies? It was really cool. It was a dream come true. It's the dream gig, and it was
Mhm.
hugely humbling that Roger had that kind of faith in me. Roger and Chaz, to we sat in the same studio where Roger and Gene did sneak previews. We sat
Wow.
in the same chairs. I had to sit on a pillow on my chair because I'm 5 feet tall and Ignati is like 6'6".
Mm.
And I flew to Chicago every other week. They were all in Chicago and I was in LA, still am in LA. And so I got to go in when my son was very young. He was like 1.5
Wow.
and didn't even know I was gone. It was a little easier then because he was at daycare. He was sleeping all day. And no, it was really fun. And I wish I had gone on longer. Have all the gratitude in the world to them for keeping it going on public television for a year. And it was fun. It was a good adventure. It was, and I kind of got to feel glamorous because someone with a clue did my makeup and did my hair and picked out my clothes for me. So thank you for asking that. Want to make sure I get to Jonathan Caro. Hello, good to see you. He says congrats on the new gig,
Thank you.
Alonzo. He says, what do you think of the recent trend of more 3 hour plus movies? Feels like going back to old school epics. Yeah, we just talked about Beau is Afraid, which is all of 3 hours.
Mm.
I don't know. I think if it is great and it is 3 hours like RRR or like The Godfather, you don't feel the 3 hours, right? If
Uh,
it's self-indulgent and just keeps going and going and going, then you begin to looking at your watch at the 2 hour mark going, oh my gosh, how am I going to get a whole nother hour out of this? I think the length to a lot of people equals prestige.
sure.
And so, like, at the end of the year, when you get the awards contenders like Babylon, they're 3 hours long. What do you think,
Yeah.
Alonzo?
Yeah, well, as Roger always said, no good movie is too long and no bad movie is short enough. So yeah, I don't I think that you're right. There is the sort of mistaken apprehension or idea that length endows a film with a certain level of, gravitas. And
Drink.
exactly. And when it's, when it deserves to be, then sure, fine, be as long as you want. I'll watch a 5 hour movie, but yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean that you matter. It kind of reminds me of when CDs started happening, and they held more space than a two-sided album or even a cassette in a lot of cases, and so people would start adding these kind of like garbagey bonus tracks just to sort of fill in
Mm.
the space. So yeah, I think they're great except when they're not.
Santiago Serra asks, favorite Del Toro film? I mean, I'd say Pan's Labyrinth. Maybe that's a little obvious, but
Yeah, yeah, agreed. I think that's the one that most sort of successfully brings together all the things that he is interested in saying. But I mean, like, obviously Devil's Backbone is great. I really like Shape of Water. Um, yeah, but yeah, Pan's Labyrinth, though, totally.
yes.
Getting water. Be right with you.
Ross. Yes. Ross Bristow asks, hello. Thank you very much, Ross. We appreciate you. Hook is my favorite movie of all time. Opinions on it. Maybe a Were You Eight episode. Was I eight? What year did Hook come out? I might have been
90,
eight.
91.
Oh, now your audio's low.
Oh, it's because I was over there.
Okay.
91.
So I was
You weren't even born yet.
I was in college. I don't have any opinions on Hook. I'm sorry. I
I
think it
j-
gets a bad rap in the pantheon of Spielberg films though, right?
Really, because I,
Doesn't
I
it?
think of I think of it as a classic "Was It Greater Where You Wait" kind of movie. Like, I
Uh-huh.
think that the people who saw it as kids,
Mhm.
eat it up with a spoon and carry affection for it throughout their lives. Whereas, yeah, I saw it in my early 20s and I was like, this is a hot mess. Um, but to be fair, I haven't seen it in 30 years. So, I don't know if my opinion would have changed. But yeah, I do think that it's one of those films. I think each generation is just going to have them. You and I have ours. There's Hook and there's Newsies and there's all kind of '90s movies that I was sort of stunned to discover years later had fervent following, and that following was all among people who were like 20 years younger than me who saw them, really early.
Yeah, we missed it. We're like not in the right demo there. But thank you for the question, Ross. Christine comes back and says, "Hunger was very good. Street food maker gets chance to work at a high-end restaurant under an exacting chef, like in the menu." Oh, so it's chef in reverse. It's John Favreau's chef in reverse. Doesn't have the same kind of nasty satirical ending though. Okay, thank you
Oh,
for
all
that.
right, I'll look at it. I,
Oh,
I was a big fan of The Bear, so I love kitchen shows.
yeah. Odile Jones, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Any thoughts on HBO's The Idol and all surrounding it? Alonzo, do you know The Idol?
The Idol. Is that the new documentary about Rock Hudson that Stephen Kayak is doing that's premiering at Tribeca? Because I am excited about that, but I can't remember what it's called.
Come back and tell us what The Idol is. I'm sorry, we don't have an answer for you. Bob
Oh, The
Sullivan.
Idol
Yeah.
is the weekend's show
Oh,
for HBO.
haven't seen it.
Uh,
Is it good?
I've heard kooky rumblings from people in the industry, but that's all I got.
Hello, Bob. Good to see you. Bob Sullivan's here. Are either of you still DVD Netflix people? I imagine not, if only for a time. When it goes away, I do not see myself filling that void with more streaming. Right. So just this past week,
Yeah.
Netflix said they were no longer doing the red envelopes. Gosh, it's been a while.
End of an era. Yeah, I haven't been signed up for that in quite a while. But I remember like as late as 2009 when I was doing movie Little Christmas, I was getting physical DVDs in the mail both from Netflix and from something called Green Cine,
Mm.
just because they had a lot of smaller, more oblique titles that Netflix didn't carry. Um, but yeah, I think pretty much once streaming really came in hard, that sort of took the place of it. And I still buy physical media. I'm still very
Yeah.
much in favor of that. But yeah, I haven't rented it in the mail in a long time.
And of course, you have a physical media column someplace,
I
do you
do at
not?
thespool.net. Thank you. Yes, running every month.
Go get you some spool.net for Alonzo's picks. Hello, Shuba Ghosh. Good to see you. One of our table for one friends. Nice to see
Heyo.
you. Boonda713. Hello. Thank you so much. I love HBO's Liberace movie Behind the Candelabra, and I don't know why it's not my type of movie. Anything you guys like that you ask yourselves why daily, like too many things to count.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a Steven Soderbergh movie, and so I think he knows enough about film to realize, okay, there are a gajillion music biopics out there. How do I tell this story in a way that is, unique and relevant to the subject? Yeah, I agree with you. It's a great movie.
Mhm.
Um, I have a very good friend who lives in Dallas who is eh, always raving about kind of genre films from Asia, and he will recommend stuff to me, and I'll think, oh, that seems like it would be good, but then I just never find the time for it. And he did not let up on RRR. He was like,
Mhm.
"You've got to see, you've got to see, you've got to see." So finally, I took him at his word and went, and he was right. But it was not a movie that I think at first I thought, oh well, I'm sure this is of interest to like the hardcore fan base, but I it wasn't a movie I was necessarily going to make the 3 hours for. But I'm glad
That's
I
an
did.
example when RRR, it is 3 hours and it zips by.
Yeah.
You're getting lots of congratulations from our friends out there, Alonzo, for your new
Oh, thank
gig.
you. Thanks,
Yes.
y'all.
Congrats, 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 says lots of folks. Kung Fu Femmes, thank you so much. Very kind of you. Brent Luthold, our friend, another table for one
Hey.
friend, says thoughts on Letterboxd. I've never actually done a letterbox. We've had various folks ask us, "Do you have a letterbox?" And I don't. Like my life is my letterboxed. Do you? What do you think, Alonzo?
I have been using Letterbox privately just to kind of keep track of
Ooh.
stuff. Like I will do a list of all the new movies that I see. I started one last year. I'm going to do it again this year, so that come December when we have to do our top 10 lists and
Mm.
vote for award stuff, it's all there in front of me of everything I saw. I also keep one of all I do rank the Hallmark Christmas movies, which I share with some people in the Hallmark like double decker group. And it actually came in handy because then it was very easy for me at the end of the season to do a ranked list for the wrap. But as far as like sharing a letterbox list, yeah, I'm with you. I think it is my day job already, so I don't
Yes.
feel the need to add that to my burden.
You have private letterbox. You have it letterboxed after dark.
That there we go.
Ooh. Thank you for the question. Jim Jambaroo, thank you very, very much. How do you guys feel about the extended cut idea? If it's Lord of the Rings, seeing the extended cut projected soon, that's good. Where it's a significant amount longer, it's great. If it's Endgame adding a whole 10 minutes, eh. So there was a Spider-Man No Way Home that came
Oh,
out
right, right, right.
recently. I took Nick to see that because he loves the Tom Holland Spider-Man so much. Um, and that was kind of fun to see bits and pieces that had been taken out, but like I don't know that it needed those necessarily. And then you have something like Apocalypse Now, where Coppola adds like a whole big chunk, like the whole French plantation
Sure,
scene, which
sure.
provides a whole lot of perspective that we didn't have. Like it's an oddity and that's interesting, but also it does provide legitimate substance. So it's kind of hit and miss. Like
Yeah.
I think didn't we like the Snyder cut better?
Yes, I think, yeah, I think specifically in cases where the studio, for one reason or other, prevented the original director's cut from happening, and then the director has a chance to sort of fix it back up. I think those are always more interesting. Wim Wenders' is Until the End of the World. I really loved the 5 hour version of that movie, but if you watch the 2.5 hour theatrical cut, you can tell it was just like chopped frantically and it doesn't really
Mhm.
work. I've never seen the original theatrical version, but I did see the director's cut of Ridley Scott's Kingdom of Heaven, which I think is
Mm.
really good. And I've read about what was missing, and I was like, oh my god, I can't imagine how you would leave these parts out and still have the story work. I've gone on record for years in saying that Kevin Smith's best film is the director's cut of Jersey Girl. Um, so yeah, I think in those cases, definitely, it's always interesting to at least get it, even if they wind up not being better than the theatrical cut. It gives you an idea of what the director's intent was. In a case of, there have been whole movies that have been rescued, not just Until the End of the World, but Sergio Leone's Once Upon a Time in America. I think if you only went by the studio cut, you'd think it was garbage. But I think in the Spider-Man case, that seems a little more like, well, how do we put this back in theaters?
Yeah,
You
to
know,
cross that $2 billion mark or whatever it is.
exactly.
And then of course, like with Blade Runner, it changes everything,
Hmm.
right? Like in a
Absolutely.
tiny way that changes everything. So I don't
Sure.
want to spoil it for you guys. Christine says, "Do you think Paddington 3 can possibly live up to the first two movies?" This is a question for you, Alonzo.
Fingers are crossed very, very hard on that one because yeah, Paul King we is he is off making Wonka with Timmy, and so I don't know. It's always a bit of a gamble when you take a beloved franchise and switch directors with it, but it's not necessarily, not going to work. So as with always with movies I haven't seen yet, I live in hope.
Yeah. Melanie, thank you very much. Has a question. Have either of you seen any of these documentaries? Tickled, Free Solo, and Won't You Be My Neighbor? I've seen Free Solo so many
I
times
was going to say
because
that was your job for a while.
I was like on the award circuit with Alex and Jimmy Chin for a while. I was very fortunate that the folks doing publicity for Free Solo asked me to do many Q&As with him. Like one of the coolest and most bizarre experiences of my life was doing a Q&A with Alex Honnold at the Cinerama Dome
Mm.
and like trying to walk out of that theater with him into the lobby, and he was mobbed like a rock star. Like he's a really like, tall, lanky dude. Like he was fine with it, looking around at all these people, and he was pretty calm. But I'm like, get me out of here. Like it was stressful, but also just such a trip. Like we packed that theater, we packed like the biggest auditorium at the ArcLight weekend after weekend. And it was also kind of fun trying to find new ways into that conversation with him, like
Mm.
trying to get to the basics, but also trying to like keep him on his toes a little bit because he does
Sure.
not suffer fools. And if he thinks your question's stupid, he's not gonna like be kind. Like he's he's kind of no nonsense in that way. And I think like that clarity and that focus is what allows him to do something crazy like free soloing El Capitan. Jimmy is of course like handsome and charming and adorable. Yeah. So I have seen that a lot and I'm wowed by it every time. I know he's gonna make it. I'm wowed by it every time. Won't You Be My Neighbor was the Mr. Rogers documentary.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that was good, right?
Yeah, no, I love that movie.
Yeah.
Although I have to say that's a movie that I think if you didn't grow up on Mr. Rogers and you don't come into the theater already with a sort of strong emotional attachment to the subject, I've talked to younger people who saw it and were kind of like, yeah, it's fine, whatever. Whereas I'm like just a sobbing wreck at the end of it because
Yeah.
I watched that show
Yeah.
all throughout my childhood, and
Yeah.
his work means a great deal to me.
Barrett points out Hook is technically a Christmas movie.
I guess.
Julia Roberts' wig was funny in Hook. We got a lot of love for Hook around here.
Yeah,
You guys must be a little
it's
bit younger than us.
I guess.
Okay, I am missing. I'm scrolling through. I want to make sure I'm not missing folks. Hello to our good friend David N. Thank you so much for
Hey,
always being so active and chiming in. We really appreciate it. I love everything you two do, especially live reactions and movie reviews. And your classic reviews are the bomb. They need all the help they can get. Is there a classic slash great film you'd to review? Oh gosh, so many.
sure.
We
Well, we've
do a
talked
thing on
about
our
Akiru, which we should circle back to at some point.
for sure since we did living. We
Yeah.
on an off the menu thing where our
Mhm.
$5 menu members and up get to pick. We do a poll. Alonzo creates a poll on a different theme each month, so we go back and do an older film. And I think for May we're going to do Can Palm winners.
Yeah.
And so one of the ones that I requested there was Barton Fink. I mean, there's always like a movie that I want to go back and rewatch and think like, what did I miss this first time? Again, like, was it great or were you wait? Like, I love
Sure.
that we do that segment. That's so cool to come back with time and perspective and revisit. So off the top of my head, I'm gonna say, Alonzo, what would you say?
Yeah, I'm always open to it. We just the most recent off the menu survey we did was for films that Ebert hated, and Blue Velvet was the winner, and it was interesting to go back and look at that again. But I kind of wanted people to pick North because I've never watched it, and I wanted an excuse to see just how terrible it is. Um, so yeah, I love revisiting a movie. I love sort of taking a deeper dive into a film that I think I know well, but I also love just having an excuse to look at something for the first time.
We super bad recently. That
Oh,
was awkward. Loves
maybe
the scene. He loves the scene where McLovin shows them the license plate, the driver's license that
driver's
says
license.
McLovin on
Yes.
it. So there you go. I am McLovin, a 25-year-old Hawaiian organ donor. Thank you for the question. Here, there, where. Hello, thank you so much. Good to see you there. What do you think will win the box office, Barbie or Oppenheimer? I mean, I
Ooh.
think purely from a how many showings can you plan in a day perspective that
Hmm.
Barbie will have more availability to see because it's going to be shorter, I guess. Maybe it's 3 hours long. Speaking of 3 hour long
We
movies,
don't
I
know.
mean, there's no way Oppenheimer is short,
No.
right? I kind
But
of think Barbie.
I would think so too, although I think Oppenheimer probably will stake out all of the IMAX houses, and
Mm.
that's a pricier ticket.
Mm.
So maybe that bounces. I don't know. I love a tweet that I saw this week that said, "I don't want Barbie and Oppenheimer to fight. I want them to kiss."
I don't want to live in a world where I have to choose. And
Right?
we will review them both, of course, but that's just
Oh
a
yeah.
crazy day. Lacusto asks celebrity when you were young and now if you have one. I mean, Rick Springfield, of course. I watched General Hospital, which in retrospect is creepy because he's like 30 years older than I am. That's a big one. Rob Lowe. I think I liked Ralph Macchio. Ricky Schroeder, of course. Dramatic now in retrospect.
No, mine are just as bad. Like young William Hurt, like circa Eyewitness, and Tom Cruise in Risky Business and All the Right Moves.
That's good. That's a good one.
Yeah.
That makes sense. No, mine
I
are like all like right wing idiots at this point, right?
well,
Ricky Schroeder,
yeah, mine are creepy in one way or another. So it's
Rob
always something.
Lowe. That's a good question. Thank you very much for that. Harry Smith wants to know, will you do a retrospective watch of Succession on your Patreon or just in your own time? Current season is looking like it will cement the show in that debated top 5 to 10 echelon. My husband and I keep saying all the time, we need to watch Succession. I really, especially now, we've got, news lately. I
Mm.
really, really want to. Alonzo, don't you really, really want to?
I do really really want to, but it's on a very long list of great shows that I haven't gotten to yet.
Yeah.
I've still never seen The Wire. So
Oh, The
like
Wire's
it's
great.
yeah, so it's on there. I want to get to it one of these days, but I was kind of joking yesterday with Dave. I said, like say what you will about a writer's strike, it would give us all time to catch up on TV.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, right.
But
Thank you for that question. Uh, Lewis Cook, hello. Thank you so much. Has there been a movie that you loved when you first saw it, but enjoyed it less when you rewatched it? This is a good question. This is the whole "Was it great or were you eight" segment that we do. It's so far
absolutely.
back with time and perspective. So Alonzo has picked News Bears and The Return of the Pink Panther. I have picked Xanadu, and I think my next one might be The Incredible Shrinking Woman. And
Mm.
so movies that, I think you assign certain emotions to them. I can recall where I was when I saw these movies, like what movie theater. And I think part of it is just that formative experience, that nugget of childhood to cling to. What do you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think again, it's there's something about it's like looking at old photographs, where you see that movie through who you were then and where you were then and what you felt then, and part of the pleasure of revisiting that movie becomes revisiting that part of yourself.
Mhm.
Um, I will say one that in recent years I realized, oh wow, this isn't good at all. I was a huge fan in college of the 1986 British musical Absolute Beginners. Um,
Oh.
I was just blown away by the spectacle of it and the way it looks, and this. It's still a great soundtrack. Like that is a one of the all time great soundtrack albums. But boy, as a movie, it does not hold together at all. Like there are individual moments that are still cool. Like David Bowie has this big production number called "That's Motivation," where he dances on a giant typewriter, and it's very much a shout out to kind of like the 1950s MGM mega musicals. But yeah, it does not hold up.
That's so interesting. So much. We appreciate you. Christy, can you tell us about your experience on the Charlie Rose show years ago? If you don't want to talk about it, let us know. About a movie star you guys were impressed with in person. Love you both. Thank you, Angel. I totally forgot that I was even on Charlie Rose. I was on literally once. And the thing that he did that was so disarming was like, you go and you sit down at this table, like the whole studio is totally dark. Everything is very dark, very calm. and like only the table and the chairs are illuminated, and you don't even realize
You forget
really
you're on a
what.
TV show.
No, you don't realize when it's begun. It just sort of feels like this intimate conversation, and then like
Oh
all
wow.
of a sudden it begins. And so I think that was kind of clever to lull to a feeling, ironically, a feeling of comfort and safety. So I thought that was kind of a cool experience. I also felt like I was totally in over my head. I was like 28 years old, 29 years old. I hadn't been in New York very long. And I felt like, what am I doing here? Like, I don't belong here.
What was
Like, this
the
is a place.
occasion?
Angel, do you remember? I think it was the Oscar. I think it was Oscar nominations. I think I remember
Hmm,
talking about Charlize Theron and Monster, maybe.
hmm.
Anyway, it was a long time ago, but I recall thinking like I'd done a lot of television and I'd never done anything like that where it's like you sit down and all of a sudden like it just begins. So that was very strange. Will Oliver wants to know top 3 bands of all time, or one if it's too hard. You want to go first? This is hard.
Oh man. I mean, like, I'm gonna leave out the obvious sort of Beatles, Stones, REM kind of things. I'll say my favorite band that dissolved after 2 albums and that only like nerdo fans like me remember as a '90s group called Jellyfish. I think I brought them up
Mhm.
in our Super Mario Brothers review. Huge fan of them. Got to see them live a couple of times. Have in the ensuing years, there's enough of a fan base where even though they put out 2 albums, there's been a box set. There's been one album that's nothing but the instrumental tracks. There's been like all of this stuff, and the people in the band have gone on to do other projects, and I've followed those to a certain extent. But yeah, the 2 Jellyfish albums that came out in the '90s for me are among the greatest records ever made.
Depeche Mode, uh, Duran Duran, but I also want to pick Radiohead. All right, I'm gonna say Depeche Mode, Radiohead. Totally biased and say Silver Sun Pickups because they're my friends, and they're
Oh
also awesome, but they're also great. They also happen to be
yes,
great. So
I
there's
mean
that.
yes, we'll give them that.
It's really hard. It's really hard to pick. It just, certain things that remind you of certain times in your life, like was it great or were you eight?
Mm.
Eli, thank you. Appreciate you. Michael Green, who chooses the music for every episode? What kinds of music do you listen to now, or are you stuck in the 80s or 90s like me? Well, it's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. Music. And Alonzo suggests things sometimes. Matt used to suggest things. And but mostly, yeah, it's me. And I try not to be totally obvious. Sometimes can't help myself, but I try not to be totally obvious. Um, Stuck in the 80s and
Look, if you
90s.
name your song after, if you name your movie after a song, like there's nothing we can do about that.
Yeah, that happens sometimes, but I try to get clever sometimes too. Bayonet 300, thank you so much. Longtime fan since your What the Flick days. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
thanks.
What are Alonzo's thoughts on how the portrayal and inclusion of homosexuality has evolved or devolved in movies and television throughout his lifetime? How much time do you have?
I have a book for you coming out in about a year. Yeah, I mean, obviously, it has changed massively. We had the production code that pretty much forbade any kind of realistic interpretation of what queer lives looked like, and then when the code went away, you had a lot of straight filmmakers using LGBTQ characters as either monstrous or punchlines. And so now, as we've been able to make our own movies and tell our own stories, I think it's changed really radically. I think television is where a lot of it has been moving forward in the last couple of decades, particularly in a mainstream sense. I think that Hollywood is when it comes to movies, they're really concerned about trying to reach as wide an audience as possible in foreign markets and all of that stuff. And so they want to keep things as they want to sand off any edges that might be uncomfortable for people. Whereas TV, is able to more kind of narrow cast in a way, and so they can take more chances. And so, you look at Joe Biden saying that he changed his mind about gay marriage after watching Will and Grace. Like there's a huge impact that this kind of thing can have. And I certainly like, if I had seen on TV the characters who are there now when I was, at a tender and fragile age and had more to choose from than Billy Crystal on soap, that I think that would have really changed my life for the better. But the fact that even like Hallmark now is like, you know what, we're going to include like gay lesbian characters, and if people who find that objectionable, then they are welcome to go elsewhere.
You can go to GAC for
Exactly.
family-friendly content with
Safe.
no gays. Langley says he thinks Barbie wins the weekend, but Oppenheimer has longer legs. Maybe.
Maybe, but I'll tell
Unless
you,
it's a Barbie.
I was gonna say, I mean, like movies that hit with a kid audience, like Puss in Boots was in theaters for a long time before it finally went to Peacock. So those movies can stick it out. I don't think either studio is gonna lose money on either of those titles. That's my prediction.
Yeah. David H. Hello. Who would you rather see do an MCU movie, Martin Scorsese or Quentin Tarantino? Neither.
Yeah, no.
Sophia Coppola.
Well, I think, but with the proviso that like Kevin Feige and whoever else isn't going to like paper cut it to death. I would love to see Edgar Wright's Ant-Man. That we were supposed
Mm,
to get. So
yeah.
I think that question is kind of contingent upon, do those directors get to have their own way, or are they going to get crushed into the machine?
Yeah. Connor, why are you making fun of my Rick Springfield crush? I was
Ah,
10. He was very cute as Dr. Noah Drake on General Hospital.
yes.
It
Did
was
you did you
different
ever,
time.
have you ever seen Hard to Hold?
Yes, I have. I don't remember it very well. That's a was a greater were you wait kind of question. Okay,
Exactly.
I am scrolling and it's moving faster than I apologize. Amber Friendly, hello, thank you so
Hey,
much. Hey guys, sorry I'm late. Just joining. You are not late. You are right on time, Amber. I'm curious how you guys have moved through your burnout moments, periods when you just could not watch another movie. Love the show. Thank you for that question. Thank you for saying that. How do you move through? Yeah, a lot of times it can feel like cramming. There are weeks where I'm radio on KPCC Film Week, like I am this weekend, where it's like you're just getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and trying to find time to squeeze them in. Alonzo, you've been on many film festival juries. You have programmed film festivals.
yeah,
You're kind of cramming them in. I guess I just always feel really privileged that this is what I do. That movies are my
exactly.
life, and it's a dumb thing to complain about. I have too many movies to watch.
Ooh, yeah. I'm not a janitor in a slaughterhouse, is what I always like to say. Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much that's kind of what it boils down to. It does drive me crazy that at the end of every year we get so much stuff that is like being thrown at us for award consideration and top 10 list consideration. It's like, why didn't you show me this in August when I didn't have 10,000 movies weighing on me? Like I'm not going to forget it if I liked it, but no, everybody wants to be the last movie you see. And so suddenly late November, early December, all of these movies, often 3 hours long, get thrown your way. And it's like,
Mm. You want to give them their due in terms of time, in terms of emotion.
exactly.
Max and Sparky asks, have you ever been asked for an autograph? Yes, at Ebert Fest, which is actually happening
Ah,
right now in Champaign, Urbana, or it's about
nice.
to be happening in the next couple of days. So yes, that was nice. You,
Um,
Alonzo?
I've signed books.
Mm,
Out of context though, maybe
yeah.
once, but
Yeah.
yeah, for the most part, it's usually like you come to a bookstore and you're buying the thing.
Yes. Courtney Z is here. I hate when I'm late to these things, but hey guys, you're not late. You're here. It's great.
Please.
Bonzo, what is GAC? It was Great American Country. Now it's
Now
Great
it's Good
American
American Family,
Family.
yes, because Gaff is such a better acronym for when you want to make something sound like not a mistake. Yeah, it's long story, but basically, the guy who got canned or left, depending on who you ask, Hallmark Channel after the kerfuffle about the lesbian wedding ad, went to this other network that is backed by a bunch of very Trump-connected rich people from Texas, and all of their programming has been, they keep touting it as being family friendly and safe, and even
Code.
Candace Cameron Bure has talked about how we're going to focus on traditional marriage. So their numbers are in the toilet, so it's not working for them yet. But that is pretty much what they have, which is like half-assed Hallmark movies, but without anything queer or interracial.
Yes. Blah. Sturdivant has a question for you, Alonzo. Thank you very
Mm,
much for your generosity.
oh,
Alonzo, when you went to
thanks.
Vandy, where was the best place to get a burger? And did you ever go to the Great Escape? This is very specific Nashville content for you all here.
Yes. Oh, I went to the Great Escape regularly. That was where I would go to buy comics every week, but they also had a lot of used records, and so I would get stuff there for my radio show at WRVU. Uh Burgers. Good question. I don't remember there being an outstanding burger place. We would go to San Antonio Taco Company all the time, which had just opened my freshman year. Like some recent Vanderbilt graduates had just opened it, and it was a mini empire for a while. I'm not sure if they're still around. Um, probably like Fridays or something stupid like that. But I didn't have like a local burger joint to call my own that I could think of.
Do you have a burger suggestion for us? If so,
Yes.
please share it. Obi makes a good point. Who has longer legs than Barbie? LOL. That is very true. Serbio asks favorite Western movie. That's hard. I'm gonna go with Country for Old Men, which I
Good
think is a
one.
Western and a noir.
I mean, it's kind of an obvious choice.
Okay.
Because it in a way it feels like an airport movie, but it's in a stagecoach.
There you go. Nick Mathis asks, I'm floored that you talked about breakfast foods once. So the irony of our name is that I eat the same thing for breakfast every single day, right?
Which is
I eat oatmeal with
Mhm.
frozen berries from Costco. In case you around here, I'm a big fan of Costco. This episode is not brought to you. I wish it
No.
were, but but we go to Costco at least once a week, and we get the big old things of oatmeal. We get the big bags of frozen berries, and that's what every morning. It's very easy.
When I'm feeling virtuous and think about it in time to do it, I will make myself steel cut oatmeal in the rice cooker, which I really like. More often than not, I will either have cereal or English muffins. But like Leslie Knope from Parks and Recreation, I can eat breakfast food all day.
Yes.
So if I can, if I go to a place and it's nighttime and they have pancakes or they have a breakfast burrito, like I will often gravitate in that direction.
Along those lines, Adam Feldman asks, how did the name Breakfast All Day come about? So after What the Flick ended, we kind of carried that on under that name as a podcast that was only on my website a little bit. And
Right.
then we had breakfast in the middle of the day, your apartment, Alonzo. It was
Yes,
you and me and Matt, and Dave made us pancakes, his
I
famous
think so.
pancakes.
Yeah.
And we were having breakfast day, and we thought, like, who doesn't love breakfast all day? Like, we're here to do whenever you need it. It's delicious. It feels a little indulgent, having
Exactly.
pancakes in the
It's a
middle of the day, and
it's a
that's where that
treat.
came from. It is a
And
treat.
when it's like back when Dave and I started Linoleum Knife, I think our thing was like we didn't want to do like, the ticket stubs or, the front row, bleh, like so
Yeah.
many movie podcasts and shows have some variation of popcorn or projection or whatever, blah, blah. And bless them, but we wanted to do something that would be more memorable by not suggesting that it was about film at all.
Yeah. Something a little mysterious and alluring about
Yeah.
that. Asks, how do you both feel about the alarming increase in movie theater talking? And what can be done about it in this jumpy era? This is favorite topic. That and phone use. You haven't lived until you've been to a screening with Dave White and someone's got a phone on. Woe be unto the audience who
I'll tell
dares
you,
have their phone.
Dave White has kind of stopped doing that because
Has he?
we had because he got gaslit by this person at a press screening, this young millennial lady who basically told when he brought it up, he said there is no phone. So at this point we're just like, okay, we don't even bring it up anymore, like it's just going to happen. I agree with you, it's terrible and it should stop. And I mean, one of the things that was always appealing about the ArcLight at Hollywood, and hopefully will be again one day if it ever reopens, was that they would have employees whose entire job it was to sort of be accessible, so that you would have somebody to go to and say, hey, this person's using their phone, and they would go in and cut it, you make them cut it out, or make them leave. And the Draft House, I think, does a very good job about being
Mm-hmm.
very zero tolerance about that.
Yeah.
But sadly, I think they are the exception and not the rule these days. And
Yeah.
most multiplexes, good luck finding an employee. A, finding an employee. B, finding an
Yeah.
employee who will do anything about it. And I so often feel like uh, uh, in the other daughter, or whatever that movie was called, Olivia Colman, where she goes to that movie, in the what's
The Lost
the
Daughter.
Lost Daughter, thank you, where like the people are making noise and no one's gonna do anything about it, and she's just like, fine, I'll leave.
That's funny. Isabella, what happened to Matt? Yes, we know what happened to Matt.
We
Thank you for
do know what
asking.
happened to Matt.
So he needed to take some time away a while ago, and we understood. And
Yeah.
it was a tough time for everyone for a long time. So he needed to take some time away, and now he has a new full time job, and hopefully he is enjoying that. So
Yes.
that is what happened. David suggests a Tommy Wiseau MCU movie. That's just terrifying.
Only if
Uh,
it's on a Tommy Wiseau budget.
Diego asks, "Did Marvel Mondays get canceled? I couldn't find Mania episode." Yes, my 13-year-old son canceled Marvel Mondays.
Because
We
of
did it
coolness.
because you guys, his deep now. He's a man. He's like 5'6". So I just couldn't get him to do them anymore. It was really fun when he was younger. It was like a fun way to talk through a movie together and to hear his. Now I think he thinks it's lame to do a podcast with your mom. Hi Looney, thank you so much. Hey guys, which actor do you want to have a career renaissance a la Jennifer Coolidge / Brendan Fraser? My vote goes to Parker P.
Oh,
Well, she's in Beau is
always.
Afraid,
Yeah.
but she never really
Yes.
went.
Yeah, I was gonna say I always think of her as somebody who has worked regularly, but certainly I think the she doesn't get the kind of number one on the call sheet roles that you might have expected after a movie like Party Girl. So, and I forgot we talked about Beau is Afraid. Aren't she and Joaquin Phoenix a couple in a Woody Allen movie, like An Insignificant Man, or a
Oh
remember that one where he's like a college
no,
professor? I think Emma
no,
Stone's in it.
he makes a movie
Anyway,
a year. It's a blur.
yeah, who can keep up? Yeah, no, that's definitely a good choice. I'll tell you, I recently saw in a Hallmark movie of all places, the mom was played by Tia Carrere, and she
Oh,
was terrific. And I was like, yeah, let's bring on the Tia Carrere's. Why not?
okay, okay, cool. Oh, there's a great burger joint in K Town called Cassell's. Yeah, there is.
Love it. Yes,
That place
best
is awesome.
Patty Melt in town.
That place is awesome. I agree. Maya Y. Hello, Chris Crawford. You.
Hey,
If you are a fan of baseball in general and the Seattle Mariners specifically, Chris Crawford's channel, My OY, is the place to be. He's very knowledgeable and a sweetheart of a guy to boot. So go check out his channel. Does a straw have one hole or two? I think it has two, right? There's one straw, there's one here, and there's one here.
I think it has one hole that has two ends.
Ooh, that's profound. We are the hole and the straw fills us.
There you go.
That is a wild question. Eli Sickle, what's your take on 3D film? Art house docs like They Shall Not Grow Old and Pina, I think, utilize the tech better because they action breathe. I remember there was a whole trend in like the 2010s of
Right.
redoing movies in 3D, and they all just looked gloopy and
Yeah.
gray.
But
I'm
I
not a
agree
huge
with
fan
you.
of it.
Both of those documentaries were great, and I think 3D actually benefited them. I don't think all documentaries necessarily would benefit from 3D. And as much as the idea of seeing Free Solo sends me into a panic, the idea of seeing Free Solo in 3D is even worse. Uh, but like, yeah, Pina is a gorgeous movie, and the Peter Jackson World War One doc, I think that really adds an immediacy to the old footage. So yeah, I think like anything else, used judiciously and appropriately, it can add to things.
Hello, Ross O'Hagan. Thank you. Angel asks, would you be cinephiles if it weren't your job? Yes, that is
Oh
definitely a
yeah,
chicken and egg thing. I think because we are cinephiles, we have this
we
job.
absolutely, yeah, yeah. I mean, I find it hilarious that in the old days, that like newspapers would take somebody off the sports desk and say, "You're our film critic now." I think nowadays, if you follow this profession, it's because you didn't have a plan B.
That's what was going on at the Associated Press. there. I started the
Wow.
AP in the late 90s, and in 1999, like March of 99, I realized that we weren't reviewing everything. Like
Mm,
I was on a Saturday broadcast shift because like you've got to do every job when you work in the bureaus. And somebody called in looking for a specific film review and it wasn't there. And so
mm.
people like the book editor was doing them and the arts editor herself, national writers, one of the science writers, but there was
Wow.
no person dedicated to it. And so I raised my hand. And
All
that's how I
right.
got my job. So it wouldn't happen that way today, but I'm very lucky that it did. Matt asks, thank you, Matt. Are there any movies that were too depressing for you to watch again? For me, it was American History X.
There are movies that I sort of think to myself, I don't want to see that again because either and that are great, but I just know what it's going to put me through emotionally. And so, yeah, I think it's absolutely valid to be like, okay, yes, I admire and respect this film, but I don't want
Yeah.
to live it for another 90 minutes,
Schindler's List comes to mind. Requiem
Classic
for a Dream.
example. Yeah. I'm not the
Those
biggest
two.
fan of either of those movies, but yes, I get those definitely fall in the category of like, that's a lot to relive.
Yeah. Um, Andre is Ari Aster just hype, or is there something there? I saw Hereditary and Midsummer and wanted to kill the director in one of his films. Okay, that seems extreme. I do
Yes.
think there's something there. I think he's got, as we have said many times, like this uncanny knack for creating truly deeply disturbing imagery that like sticks under you can't
Yeah.
shake it and you can't forget it. So I think he gets really unsettling performances out of his actors, whether it's Tony Collette or Florence Pugh. What Joaquin Phoenix is doing in Beau is Afraid is different. He's very passive in this role, but still. There are some startling moments with him. So I don't think he's hype. I don't love Beau is Afraid at all, but I don't think he's hype.
No, I mean it's 3 films in, so I think he's still sort of, getting started as a filmmaker, but absolutely you're right. I think for all the reasons you said, he definitely knows how to stage these individual moments for sure that are unforgettable. And so I think that, you know, it'll be curious to see how he grows and how he comes together. A performance from one of his films that has really stayed with me that I think doesn't get enough credit. Alex Wolff in Hereditary
Mm,
does one of the
mm,
best performances of fright that I've ever seen of a character who is frightened. It's palpable.
yeah. Juju says, any thoughts on film criticism, the state of cinema, explosion of superhero movies, the influence of fandom, and role of streaming platforms. Longtime fan since What the Flick. Love from Rio. Thank you for all of that. Yeah, I'm glad you of that because we
Yes.
touched on it a little bit in a news segment recently, and we wanted to explore it further in a place like this. You want to go first?
No, go ahead.
So I know Tony a little bit just because I
Okay.
was in New York for 6 years, reviewing films. So I would see him around. And I can imagine this for about as long as he has been.
Mm.
But I can imagine when you reach that level, that it's just stressful. The not the scrutiny, but like the onslaught of negativity. And I can see how like if you don't want to subject yourself to that anymore, like why not go back to writing what you love? I don't doubt that he loves movies, and I don't doubt that he still believes in like the transformative power of them. But as we alluded to earlier, when someone asked about the fan based YouTube channels, like it can be intense and it can be a lot. And I have chosen to tune out negativity, and I feel like you and I, Alonzo, have fostered a really nice and civil and engaged community here, as evidenced by all these great questions and all you folks hanging out with us. But like, I'm sure when you're the film times, it can just be a lot.
Yeah, I think I mentioned before when we talked about it in the news, like, I will occasionally have to block somebody on Twitter who's being a jerk, but I can't imagine having my top 10 list dragged through the mud on Hannity, and being held up as an example of everything that's wrong with woke culture or whatever. So yeah, I totally get it. If the misery is outweighing the pleasure, then yeah, you just want to take a step back. And I mean, he's not wrong about the state of cinema. But at the same time, I think, one of the upsides of this job and having access to so much of what's coming out now is that, we always have something to recommend when people ask what's good out there right now, and I think if you're in the kind of if you're reviewing for the kind of publication where all you get to review week in and week out is Marvel movies, then it would be draining. But and not that Tony did, obviously, at the times, he got to cover a lot of stuff. But I think, you and I can say, like, well, have you seen Showing Up? Have you
Mhm.
seen Suzume?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I think there is still a variety of great film out there, but overall the crushing, taking up a lot of the oxygen as in the marketplace is a very specific kind of movie right now. And if you're not interested in talking about that kind of movie, then you have to sort of figure out, how you're going to make this more interesting for yourself.
And I feel like increasingly the consumption of film criticism isn't really to read someone's
Hmm.
hear someone's opinion or be enlightened or challenged so much as like have your expectations validated. And I learned that, 10 years ago when I didn't love The Dark Knight Rises, when I gave a
Yeah.
mixed negative review of The Dark Knight Rises and I got death threats. And so it's like,
Yes.
as early as that and before, like, I think people, and that was on a Tuesday. you know, I think people more often than not like want you to love what they love or want
Yes.
you to love what they hope they'll love. And people quite frequently would like to find critics with whom they are ideologically aligned or with whom their tastes align. And I
Yeah.
don't think that's what this job is about. I think this job is about like, here's my experience. And if you have the same one, great, we can enjoy it together. You don't agree with me, that's a lot of fun too. What did you see that I didn't see? And so I feel like what we do in theory should be the beginning of a conversation and not like a rubber stamp on, fandom.
Yeah, and look, if there are people who don't have a time or money to take in everything, and they read reviews to find out, am I going to like this movie? Fine, and I think there's nothing wrong with finding critics that you agree with, or who you always disagree with, whichever it is that allows you a barometer for wanting to check something out. I think where it crosses the line is when you attack someone for
Mhm.
either disagreeing with you or just not even or just not liking a movie that you've already decided you're going to like because you have aligned yourself with this corporate product as part of your own personality. And so,
Mm.
like, whatever MCU puts out, you're going to be there for it, or whatever has Zack Snyder's name on it, you're going to be there for it. And part of being there for it is not just being a fan of the product itself, but attacking anyone who dares speak out against it, and that's not healthy for anyone.
Yeah, the monolithic. We have lots of people chiming in with movies that were so depressing that they never want to see them again.
Okay.
Rachel, hello, Rachel says Son of Saul. The Mist
Oh.
and Funny Game says Terry. Seth
Yeah,
says The
yeah.
Nightingale. A bunch of votes
Mm,
for 12 Years a Slave. Yeah, that's an
yeah.
excellent choice. Like an exceptionally well made film that I never want to see
Want to
again.
watch again. Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
I hate to bring it up, but I kind of need to wrap up, so
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me get to
it's
one more
okay.
Ross question. Ross, hello, thank you. Did you ever Arms by Olmi? I think All Quiet on the Western Front set during the Papal Wars. No, I have not. I'm
I've
sorry.
not, but I'll
I
put
have
that on the
not.
list to look for.
And also Matt, favorite horror movies? Some movies you consider your favorites. I mean, like The Shining. It sounds
Uh
kind of basic. So many, but
yeah, the Babadook, the original The Hitcher, the original The Stepfather, The Bride of Frankenstein. Uh
yeah, there's so many. Orant Patty asks, "Love you guys, thank you, and thank
Thank
you
you.
for that. Would you ever write a screenplay? Hell no,
Oh no, 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 no,
never in a
no.
million years.
I have too
No,
much respect for the whole process.
it's so hard. We have screenwriter friends. We know how hard it is, and I've never wanted to make a movie. Like that's always the rap that film critics get. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
we're all
you're
frustrated
just
artists.
frustrated. Like you can
Yeah,
hack it, and that's
you
why you're a
lash
film
out.
critic.
Like, no, no, never wanted to.
No, I've never wanted to make a movie. I just want to watch them. I'm so sorry off. Alonso has to go. I know we didn't get to so many of these questions. I will try to go back once this thing is posted and answer some in the comments. So if we didn't get to yours, um, we will hopefully in some capacity. Thank you guys so much for sharing some of your time and
Thanks for
being
being here. We'll do it again
this.
soon. So if we didn't get to your question this time, we'll certainly try to next time.
Yes, and thanks all you guys for being here, and we will see you soon. I'm going to try to turn this thing off and do it correctly. Have a great day, everyone. Take care.